Hi, this is Eric Bischoff, and you're listening to Count It Out with Mike and Tyler.
Well, we are live, pals, and welcome to another edition of the Bill Apter Sealed of Approved Count It Out with Mike and Tyler. My name is Tyler, and I've got my trusty co-host with me, as always, Mojito Mike. But Mike, we are not alone today, are we?
No, sir. This is everybody knows I drink beer on this show pretty much every week. This is the first time I'm fighting back the urge not to smash the beer can across my forehead over and over again. No, we have a very special guest this week, guys. Today we're joined by a man who, in the early 90s, took a small regional promotion and turned it into one of the biggest, the three biggest companies on the planet. He's a father, he's a husband, he's a businessman, he is one hell of a crisis booker. If you don't get that joke, you better go pick up a copy of his book, Tod is God, in stores and Audible everywhere right now. Please welcome to Count It Out, Mr. Tod Gordon. Tod, how are you doing, my friend?
Thank you, my brother. To you.
Oh, nice. I'm on the water party today. I should have poured a whiskey. I don't know what I was thinking. I was rushing home from work late, and I didn't pour my trusty whiskey, but I'll have to let you guys indulge on my behalf.
There you go. So let's start right there, Tod. Let's start with the book, since I already mentioned it. I read it just this week. I say I read it. As we discussed off camera, I'm a father of two. I have a 50-hour-a-week job. I have this podcast. I have school. I'm a busy guy. I don't get to sit down with a book. Thank God for Audible, because Audible has been my savior on this podcast more than once. Your book is on Audible. It's well read by Sean Oliver. It's a really fast, great read, great listen. I got to ask, let's start there. You co-wrote this with the narrator, Sean Oliver, of Kayfabe Commentary fame. Why was Sean Oliver the right guy to pick to sit down with this and do this book with?
You know, I had done two DVDs with Sean. One was a history of ECW 92, 93, or 93, 94. And also another one is this stupid one he does where people like pull up crazy bags and ask questions, whatever you shoot. Yeah. So I'd done two with him, and we had a really nice chemistry. So we became friends. After which, we would just talk occasionally, and I would tell him a story. It was something that popped in my head. He goes, "Oh my God, that's hilarious! If you were really write a book." This was years ago. I said, "Yeah, well, that's not happening." Then I would tell him more stories and more stories. He goes, "Tod, you got to write this shit down." I said, "Why?" He goes, "This is going to be part of the book." I go, "There's not going to be a book. So just stop it." Then once we go by, I tell him, "Oh my God, you just said that. That reminds me of the time so and so did." He goes like, "We are going to write a book." He like until it was the end, and again we were kind of friends, you know. So it was like it was an easy thing to do with him. He said, "I'll do all the work. All you need to do is spend the next 8 months, 5 days a week almost, dictating stories to me on Zoom, and I'll put it on some kind of chronological order." That's an exaggeration of the number of hours it was, but it was something that it felt like that. But all I did was just sit there and hang out with him and tell him stories. He would just throw something out. He goes, all right, let's talk about Sandman for an hour. I said, I can do that for 8 hours. And off I went. And I go, oh, yeah, and then this story happened. And then that story. I mean, one of the best stories in the book, which, if you want me to tell, I will, was about Sandman on the road.
Yeah.
The story in the hotel room. That's one I've been telling a little bit. So people know it's out there a little bit, but it's a great story.
Yeah.
We're in our hotel room. I hung out with me, Sammy, and Fonzie, and Too Cold Scorpio. The four of us, we were like, and still are, oddly enough. I mean, the four of us are like that to this day, 30 years later.
Awesome.
We're in the hotel room, same hotel we go to every month before the arena shows or after the arena shows in Philly. It's called the Loser Lodge. It's the Travel Lodge. It's a big round castle kind of building. And we're sitting there, we're just relaxing, having a cocktail, and smoking a doob. And Sammy goes, "Oh my God, is this room 805?" We all looked at each other and like, yeah, why? Watch. He jumps up, goes to the corner of the room. I go, what the hell is he doing? He starts ripping up the carpets. I go, yo, Sam, I gotta pay for this shit. Don't start trashing the hotel. He goes, Gordon, I got this. He's ripping, reaches under the carpet and pulls out an 8-ball cocaine. Now the three of us are looking at him like, what just happened? Now, mind you, we stay at this hotel every month.
Yeah.
He goes, well, about 6 months ago, we were here. I buried that there because I was taking a plane to Utah that next day. I didn't want to take it on the plane with me. So I stuck it under the carpet. I said, so for 6 months we've been coming here, you didn't remember there's a room where you buried cocaine under the carpet? He goes, no, not until I saw the 8 of Scorp, come here. And we're all looking at this, what? Come here. All of a sudden, there he goes, barefoot, snot rag hanging on his back pocket, marching down the hall of the hotel. Me and Fonzie follow behind, like, what is going on? And Scorp's like, I don't know. I don't know. So they get to the hotel. There's the elevator. There's this giant urn there. Scorp, help me lift this. The two of them start pushing this big urn up. He reaches under and he goes, oh, oh. He pulls out another 8-ball cocaine. That's the Sandman. That was life on the road with me and my guys. But that's just one story in the book. But that's, yeah. That's how I did it with Sean. And I would tell him those stories. He'd fall down laughing. He goes, I'm so glad I'm recording this and not having to transcribe it till later on. He goes, that's great. Tell me more. And that's how it went.
How much fun was that for you to do, Todd, to just go back and relive some of these moments? Are you maybe sending some text messages to some of your friends being like, oh, man, do you remember when this happened, and getting to have a good laugh again?
She was more like me, like texting, like say Mike Johnson from PW Saturday saying, yeah, what year did this happen in? Did this come before this or did this come after that? He's like the historian. He goes, 1994, blah, 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 blah. 1995. I said, oh, thanks. I come back and start talking at the end of the book. Like, yeah, I'm bad with dates and times, but the stories I was 100% accurate on. And that's, yeah, it was great going over them again and reliving them again. I hadn't thought of them in so many years. It happens all the time. Again, swear to God, this very week, this story I've never told anywhere because it just happened this week. I had a memory and a flashback to something that happened 30 years ago, but before we used to hang out. And that is when we used to party, when Fonzie would do a line of cocaine. He would spend the next 2 hours standing at the peephole at the hotel room looking out in the hallway while everybody else in the room was like, carrying on, telling stories. And we started to call him Peephole Fonz. And I never remembered that until this week. First thing I did is first I hit Sandman up. I said, 2 words, Peephole Fonz. He goes, what? Oh my God. Then I did it to Fonzie. Goes, I don't get it, Toster. Just thinking about it for a minute. He goes, oh my God, that's what you guys did. And Scorpio, same thing. All 3. That's 30 years later, but just came to me this week. The story I never remembered even when I was telling Sean the stories. I just remember that. So they just come out of nowhere.
Speaking of these stories, a lot of these stories, you're really open, you're really candid and explicit of the things you've seen and did on the road during these times. Was there any trepidation on your part to print any of it, knowing that your wife and kids were going to read these stories?
You know what? It was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
In all honesty, it's certainly not the lifestyle. It wasn't even my lifestyle then. It was almost like my ECW lifestyle as opposed to my other lifestyle, like Clark Kent and Superman kind of, this whole like crazy thing.
Yeah, you're not at the jewelry store doing lines off.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Watches, right?
100% correct. Like there was never any, and even in ECW, the guys all knew the rule. You come to work and you're messed up, so screwed up, you can't work. You're done.
Yeah.
Don't ever get there so high you can't do your match. I said, you wait till after the show's over, you do whatever you want. You're grown men. I'm not going to tell you how to behave. But don't you come to, none of us came to work like that. No way. And that was the only strict rule. But you're right. In 30 years ago, it seemed different then. There was no, I want to say that there was no CTE back then. No one ever heard of it. AIDS wasn't a thing back then with the blood. I mean, none of this stuff had even come about yet. I can't say you know the damages drugs could do because they had commercials on TV with frying eggs and stuff, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
for the most part, it wasn't. We didn't feel like we were doing something really dangerous, and we really weren't doing it outside driving down the highway. We were like in a hotel room alone, just shooting the shit and telling stories and reliving that night's matches, thinking about how we can improve the next match and talking about each other's stuff because we all try to help each other, and we all like were simpatico that way. But like I said, so my wife and kids. Well, my wife, she was not there for that. I have a new wife. She was not there for that. Um, I guess they say, they all know I'm a little crazy. I mean, not gonna lie, I am just a tad crazy, but not in that kind of bad way. It's an older guy, funny way now. But no, I have no regrets. I wouldn't have written it 30 years ago when they were little.
Yeah.
Now they're all adults. I mean, they all know who I am. There's no secrets anymore. I'm not kayfabing my kids like I was 30 years ago. So it's all good. My kids are great. They love the book. My wife loves the book. I'm happy.
How's the feedback been within the wrestling community?
Wow. Yes, thank you for asking me that. But my feedback's been overwhelmingly positive. Like whether it's the Amazon reviews or the Goodreads or the boys who pick. I mean, I think of Bob Ortiz and Stephen DeAngelo, my ring announcers, about Sean Finnegan, were all calling me up like something saying, "I read the book in one night. I couldn't stop." I said, "You're kidding me! You were there." I know. I just couldn't stop. I just couldn't stop. We were living so much time. Yeah, I've gotten phenomenal feedback from that. Sandman, he read the book and zipped right through. Yeah, I'm real happy with that. No negative feedback yet, and I'm glad. I mean, I would have accepted it. It's out. Some people are not going to like this or that, but nothing is not true. So I don't know what the negative feedback would be about. But yeah, it's been all good feedback. Thanks.
What was your
Tyler,
main...
if you let me, I'd hijack this entire show. So get your shit in, brother.
I mean, there's just so many ways that we can go and so many things I want to talk to you about. Let's start with something maybe a little bit more recent.
Wait, can I ask you guys a question first?
Of course.
Yeah.
How much ECW did you guys get up there, or when did it get up there?
Oh,
or were you guys after the fact?
I didn't really there were I was in the trade trading scene in the, I want to say about 96, 97.
That's when you say tape
hard.
trading 5 more times.
Yeah, I couldn't say it once, Todd. But it was hard. Where I lived in a town of 900 people in bumfuck no Ontario, Canada. So it was hard for me to get these tapes. But when we did, we watched them, obviously. I didn't see ECW on actual television, I want to say, until 1999.
Yeah, we didn't.
Wow.
We didn't get it until TNN, pretty much.
Yeah, I want to say, give or take.
Yeah,
it was really hard. It was really hard to come by.
That was such a watered down version then too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, for me, my first exposure to ECW was through the magazines. Right.
Sure.
I remember watching or reading, I think it was a PWI or maybe an Inside Wrestling, and it was Francine bit Terry Funk's ear. And it was like, is this the too extreme for ECW? And I'm like, oh, okay, what's going on here? And you'd see, the blood pictures. It was like a nice throwback to the 80s when you would see the Dusty Rhodes blood pictures. Right. But instead of Dusty, now we're seeing Terry Funk and Shane Douglas, and Sabu blew my mind the first time I saw him.
Yeah. God bless those magazines. That's what turned me on to people I'd never heard of, like Mid-South Wrestling. Bill Watson's group down there. We didn't see them on TV. It was like, whoa, the magazine, Buzz Stewart with his ear hanging off. And I'm like, who's Buzz Stewart? Like what? Yeah. So magazines, God bless them. They served their purpose all these years.
1,000%. Even for us, I don't know about you, Mike, because Mike and I, we met about 5 years ago. But I'm 40 or 39 and Mike's in his 40s now. So when I was growing up, 39. Yeah. When I was growing up though, it was mainly just WWF that we got. And occasionally we would find some WCW, but we didn't get the Crockett stuff, at least that I could find. Mid-South, I didn't find out about stuff till Mid-South and World Class until years later. And then, I appreciate that now. I love going back and watching, World Class. And now we're spoiled, right? I don't think, the wrestling fans that are coming up now understand how spoiled they are, where they can just type in on, world-class wrestling and see the Von Erichs and the Freebirds whenever they want.
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, all of it was new to me back then. I mean, again, there was no internet, obviously. So it was magazines, you'd see a name. And then once in a blue moon, we get these channels on UHF, 3 o'clock in the morning, to be, what was Tully Blanchard's wrestling called?
Houston, right?
No, it was like San Antonio's, like,
San Antonio.
And I came over and I said, what? Who are these guys? They're on the WWF. Like, what? There's other, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Then you never were educated in the fact there was wrestling in other parts of the country. That was different than what you watched on TV. I thought, here's wrestling. This is what wrestling is. This is a WWF. Crazy Luke Graham, Bruno San Martino, George Animal Steel. Then I'm saying, who's this Tully Blanchard? Why is he busting this Gino Hernandez over? Who's Gino Hernandez? Like, and then it was gone. Then you see a little bit of Florida Championship wrestling. It's like, where does this exist? How do I find this? It's like, it was driving me crazy. It was awesome.
Is it cool?
I was lucky enough. Sorry, go ahead, Tyler.
Go ahead, Mike. You go ahead.
I just want to mention how my uncle bought me the PWI Almanac for my birthday every single year, starting at a young age. And that
Bill Apter says thank you.
Yeah, and that's what opened me up to everything outside of WWF at the time. And I was privileged enough about 2 years ago now, we had Bill Apter on the show, and I thanked him because I said, if it wasn't for, the Bill Apters and guys like that in the world, especially PWI, because that was my exposure as a kid. It showed me, you brought up Tully Blanchard. For me, it was Art Barr. I opened up an almanac one day and I saw a big picture of Art Barr. And I said, who the fuck is this guy? I've never seen anything that looks like him. Like, this is, the fact that anybody cannot look like Hulk Hogan, that was cool to me. So I think years later, that's why ECW spoke to me, because I was looking for another Art Barr. I was looking for these guys who didn't look like the WWF guys. And had, goddamn, did ECW give that to us?
You're not kidding.
But that's where it started for me. I got to say it was probably around 93 where I'm reading about guys like Art Barr. And then from there, you're seeing the pictures of Tully Blanchard, like you mentioned. And even
for me, it was also Dusty Rhodes on a magazine. I never saw Dusty Rhodes before. No. WCW wasn't out then. He was like, who's this guy in Florida? We're spiking Kevin Sullivan. Like, Kevin Sullivan? Wasn't he a jobber guy? Like, what happened to him? Like a devil eye. Like, that's how I was like, what is, I couldn't wait to get more of it. I just wanted more and more and more. And then that's why I was so disgusted when everything turned cartoons in the early 90s. When like they're putting cartoons on Saturday mornings. It's like, I went like, what have they done? I used to believe this shit growing up. I used to believe that Bruno was could lose the title Saturday night. I wouldn't know until the next week's TV show came on. I was like, I believe, and no one, there's nothing to believe in anymore. It's horrible.
I was late to the party, man. I thought wrestling was a shoot until I was like at least 13 years old.
That's not late. Well, for your age group, it is.
If you're 13 now and you believe in kayfabe, you're going to get made fun of until the day you die.
You're right.
But I was 13 in 1994. So, in 94, it was one of the goofiest times in professional wrestling, especially if you're a WWF fan. Yet somehow I still believe that there was an evil plumber named T.L. Hopper.
That's all you guys got exposed to. And I can relate because guess what? I'm talking about 1968 when I was 13. Mm-hmm. So, I believed everything I saw. Like, no one was smarting me up. I'm like, come on. See, my father used to yell at me going, that's not real salt. Tanaka's he's not a professor. He's not really his name probably not even Toro Tanaka. I say, leave me alone. I'm watching my show. He's like, that's my show. Like everyone else had their own, this is my show, is watching wrestling. But so I believed everything I saw back then as a kid. I don't know when I found out. I guess I couldn't even tell you when it was. I figured out the whole kayfabe deal as a kid. But I'm sure we're somewhere between that 13 and 15 area, like right around there.
Yeah, that's what I was too.
So I said, like, 90s was like, it was horrible, man. They're like cartoons and Papa Shango's doing a spell. The Ultimate Warriors across the arena going, I
loved it, though. I ate it all up.
And that was my breaking point. That, when you ate up, made me start ECW. Yeah. That was my breaking point, that very moment.
And I'm sure if I was, in my 20s or 30s at that point, I would have been right beside you for sure. Because
But
that's what
I said, like, you know what? When I got the opportunity to get involved, and I got involved, started to grow little things here and there, and I was able to actually produce real shows. I said, you know what? Finally, I'm going to put on stuff that I wanted to see.
Yeah.
And the people who will come to watch it are going to be the cool fans because they want to see it too. Like, I was one of them. If they're coming to come see a cartoon, then I don't want to hang out with them anyway. I'll stall while you get the beer. It's all right. It's good. It's good. Good. Good.
Well, I
I
was going
got
to
them
ask you,
covered.
Todd, about these really early days when you started promoting ECW when it was Eastern Championship and even Tri-State at the time, right?
Well, Tri-State was my predecessor. That was Joel Goodhart. I started Eastern.
Okay, so Eastern, sorry. So when you're starting out with Eastern, I've heard you mention names like Ivan Koloff, who are, you've credited with teaching you, hey, who am I putting over today? Who are some of the unsung heroes though of those early days that you look back on and be like, wow, like, like those Ivan Koloffs? Because we always talk about the Terry Funks and the Sabus and the Dudley Boys and
The earliest days, it was first Ivan Koloff, who only worked maybe 2-3 shows for me. Jimmy Snuka, who became a mainstay with us right out of the chute. And, it was fair enough with me where I could afford to pay him, where everything went well. That Morocco came into, but it was more of a short-term thing. But the two veterans that really hung my hat on at the very beginning before I brought Eddie Gilbert in and grew were Ivan Koloff and Jimmy Snuka. And they were both honorable men. Like, they you could have seen a green guy like me and said, okay, that's good. But they were the exact opposite. They were like paying forward to see if we can help this guy at least not lose his ass or whatever. I don't think either one of them ever expected us to become, ECW, but they didn't try to take advantage or help me. You gotta respect guys like that. You know what I'm saying? They were just good men. They were good people. I'll tell you the first time that your very first show, you said the bar show, Ivan Koloff. Someone says you can get Ivan Koloff. I go, what? He lives in Maryland, so he's like $300, which is more than anybody else is getting here, but it's less than a lot of top stars are asking for. And he drives up from Maryland to Pennsylvania, so there's no airfare, there's no hotel. It's just straight $300. His draw is certainly worth that. Okay, they gave me the number. Pardon me, I call up and it's like, hello. I said, yes, I'm calling for Ivan Koloff, please. This is Ivan. I go, no, Ivan Koloff, the wrestler, the Russian guy. He's like, yeah, this is Ivan. I said, Ivan Koloff, Russian Bear Ivan Koloff, Bruno Simmer. Yes, yes, this is me. I said, lesson number one. My first show's coming up. Don't assume anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he wasn't Russian. Okay, so maybe I wasn't the smartest guy in the first show I ever ran. And he spoke perfect English and didn't carry a chain around his neck everywhere he went. He actually dressed in real clothes. And he said, that was education number one. Again, he helped me out. And then Snooker came in and he just liked it. He's like, I can get here because my wife's in the airline industry. It costs you nothing to get me here or airline. Or you just give me a hotel and, I'll stay here. Help work with you. You want to work with us every week, every month on the promotion. It's awesome. But then all of a sudden, he started staying in the area. I've had somebody I could, hang out with. So now the wife was kind of like going, Jimmy's here like every show, like without having any airfare, any hotel or anything. So it was great. And he was a cool guy to hang out with too, by the way. I mean, he really was a good guy. I mean, Jimmy's a funny guy. And first time I met him, his wife brought him in. He was my first big star. I was asking him to win the belt, to stay on for some of these shows, see if I could make a deal with him. And she was acting as his agent. So she brought him in. And I said, well, go to this really fancy, I never met a guy before, a fancy seafood restaurant in Philadelphia. Very, suit and tie kind of place. And I get there and I'm waiting for him to come in. Again, I've only run like 2 shows so far. And he comes walking in, wearing the headband with his pearls on it, shells on it, with his gimmick on, with the whole robe that flows. I'm like he was coming on stage at WWF to make his entrance. It's a restaurant. A suit and tie stuffy restaurant. There's Jimmy. brother, 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 brother. Coming in, I'm going, oh boy. Now, trying to be, I don't want people yet, certainly not yet, even ever maybe my contemporaries know that I'm involved with wrestling, so they never understand. I'm trying to low key it. And there's Jimmy with his arms and the rope flowing, walking with his sandals on. I went, wow. Like he's going to the ring. And I went, okay. And now every head in the restaurant is turned. Everybody's watching us. I'm like, no, this is comfortable. Not. So we're eating, Jimmy's bringing shrimp, brother, shrimp. They bring me shrimp, which I don't know what the hell it was back then. $12 for an appetizer, 20, who knows what it was. We had like four. Waitress like, was that to order now? Jimmy goes, first bring some more shrimp, brother. And some for the table, too. I'm like, table's good, Jimmy. Table's good. We're like at $400 in shrimp and we haven't ordered yet. Table's doing just fine. And yeah, we became good friends. And Jimmy's a great guy. One of the stories I tell in the book, he traveled with a guy called the Metal Maniac, who was a guy from New Jersey who he got bookings for, and he basically gave him a place to stay. Took care of all the needs he had, to get his ring gear ready, whatever, so that he could get him jobs and he could get seen. It was like a trade off for him. Smart way to get in the business, and he also working every match with Jimmy Snuka is not terrible. They're gonna get killed every time. It's still good. And we're at a show one night, not in front of a lot of people, 200 people, 300 people. And the dressing room is Ivan Koloff and Jimmy Snuka. They're my two guys. And we're sitting there, and Jimmy's going to work the Metal Maniac. Again, small show, no TV, no kid, 200 people. And Jimmy goes, Uncle Ivan, you got a gimmick? No, I'm just sitting there watching, okay? Like, I'm still pretty marky, even though I'm running the show, I'm still a mark. Ivan goes, yeah, hold on. He goes to his bag on the floor. He goes, I got this one, but it's all rusty. He's talking about a razor blade to cut himself. So he goes, I got this one, it's all rusty. Jimmy goes, it's okay, brother. I'll give you that one. And also, Metal Maniac's eyes get about this big. He goes, what's going on, Jimmy? Relax, brother. Relax, brother. Okay, so they're all good, Jimmy takes the gimmick and he goes, hides the blade up under his lip. They go out to have, and Jimmy and Metal Man's going like, nobody's anything about color. And Jimmy's like, color, why are we getting color in front of 200 people? I don't understand. He goes, brother. So they get out in the ring. And meanwhile, Jimmy's just dying. And we're all in the back of that. We have no idea what's going on. And Jimmy goes, zip. He's got nothing in his hand. He had no blade in his mouth. He and Ivan were working this gimmick. And you see Metal Man, he's going, squeeze, brother, squeeze. And Maniac's going, He goes, brother. He's going, am I getting cold? He goes, no, squeeze. Come back here. He goes, and he zips him again. He's only using his fingernail. There's no bleed at all involved. And he goes, now squeeze. Maniac's in the middle of the ring going, I thought he was having an aneurysm. His face was so red and purple. Him trying to squeeze that what he thought was a cut in the color that was the first rib I ever witnessed. And it's one of the funniest ones I ever witnessed.
Yeah. I laughed hard when I read that in the book. It's just as funny hearing it now.
Ivan picked up on it though. I mean, it was like he didn't say like wink wink. So I didn't see that. He just went, hey Ivan, you got a gimmick. Ivan was right there, man. It's old school stuff.
Your restaurant story just reminded me of something because I got to tell the story just because I had the exact opposite experience that you did. You're having dinner with a guy who's got to be full gimmick at a restaurant. Where that's what I always expected when I was younger. Obviously, when I was 16, I did. We had a small indie company come through my town for the first and only time in history. Did a wrestling company come through my town and did a small show, and they knew the principal of my school called the 4 wrestling fans in the school and introduced us to the promoter, and he got us to do some promotion work for them. And for payback, he said,
You flyer the place. You're the guys who did flyers.
Exactly. He goes, and the promoter said, in payback, here's what we're going to do. On show day, you're going to come out for dinner, and I'm going to set you up with dinner with a couple of the workers. Well, those 2 workers were Luke and Butch of the Bushwhackers.
That's great.
And this is 1998, so they've been out of the E for a while. But as far as I'm concerned, they're my childhood, so I'm looking forward to this. I get to sit down and have dinner with Luke and Butch, but I expect them to walk into this building, licking armpits and fucking. I'm 16. I'm not. But no, they're
hilarious.
They're the sweetest, nicest guys in the world.
What a great story.
They're the great. So it's the exact my experience was the opposite, because I was almost disappointed that they didn't just grab one of my buddies and put him through a table, because this is where I started. Like I said, the PWI. I knew about the sheep herders, right? I knew they were vicious bastards. So I told my buddies, because they weren't smart to the rags. So I would tell my buddies, like, watch out for these guys. They're not just the bushwhackers, they're the sheep herders. They might hurt us. Well, no, they were the sweetest guys in the whole world. It was great.
That is really funny. I just see you tell your friends, watch tonight. They're gonna come here.
I told them, said, don't trust these guys. Don't trust these guys. They might, if we insult them, they might hurt us. No. I think the worst thing that happened that night, I believe it was Luke, just to pop us, took his 2 front teeth out, because one of my buddies said, on TV you don't have any teeth, and he started laughing.
That's great.
Tod, you told some pretty fun stories of being out with some of the boys, and we know the legendary history of that ECW locker room and guys that can put back and have a pretty good time. We always hear about the Sandman and a couple of the other guys, New Jack. Who's like the under the radar person that can hang at the bar after the shows, though?
Anybody. There's a hardcore group that are like outwardly, I'm not sad, man, or whether they're like quietly, just very sad, or it may be like, yeah, like everybody can hang. I mean, my God, the pit bulls could hang. way hang. They were hardcore. The whole locker was, I mean, just New Jack and Salmon were just the loudest. They weren't the wildest. They were just the loudest. Maybe they were a little bit the wildest, but yeah, they were definitely. You knew they were in the bar. You knew they were in the locker room. You knew they were in the arena. Neither one of them knew how to talk at a decibel level that normal people speak at. When they're just speaking, they're screaming. I'm like, Hack, Sam, his name's Hack. Jack, I'm right here. I'm 2 inches away. Like, stop screaming at me. I'm not screaming. Yeah, you are.
I'd love to ask you about a specific story in the history of ECW. We were talking off air. I'm a big Cincinnati Bengals fan. And the reason I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan is because of an encounter I had with Brian Pillman at a house show. I was trying to get his attention in 1997 at a show in Toronto, shortly before he passed away. And I was doing everything I could. I could see him waiting to do a run-in. My seats were elevated, so I could see where he was. And I'm yelling, Brian Pillman, Brian Pillman. So I've always been a big Pillman guy, and I love the Hart Foundation. I'm Canadian, right? And he won't acknowledge. He's just focused. And some guy beside me yells out and goes, call him a Cincinnati Bengal. And I said, hey, Pillman, you Bengal. You Cincinnati Bengal. And I got the thumbs up from him after. Then, of course, I got into football a couple years later, and I had to pick the Bengals as my team. And it was actually cool. I got to tell his son that story when we interviewed him a couple months ago, or about a year ago as well, which was really cool for me. But can you talk about the night that Brian Pillman showed up in the ECW arena?
I can. What I'm going to tell you about it is a story that's not even a story out there. That night, first night, I don't know how it happened, but after the show's over, I'm in a hotel room with just Brian Pillman, me, and the Sandman. I don't know how it's just the 3 of us, but it's just the 3 of us. And we're hanging out, we're talking, we're partying, we're getting along just fine. And out of nowhere, Pillman gets into that like crazy guy gimmick, I guess. It's just the three of us, mind you. He starts talking about when he was playing NFL football and how the Turk comes. And the Turk is the guy on cut day who walks over to each football player and tells you if you're cut. You don't want to see the Turk. All of a sudden, he's marching across bed to bed. He's like doing this whole crazy thing. And we're like, what the, how high is this guy? Like, we're buzzed, but this guy's like, whoa. And Saban goes, Gordon, is this guy trying to work us? This guy's a superstar. Here's Saban acting like he's the superstar. Is this guy trying to work us? I go, I have no fucking idea what he's doing. And he just went on and goes, and when the Turk comes, you don't want to see the Turk. I'm going, where's the cameras? He cut a promo. Like, we had no idea what the hell was going on with him that night. But that was my very first meeting, spending time with Brian Pillman outside of the arena. We had great plans for him, but he had his own agenda. He was smart enough to work WCW to let him out of his contract.
Yeah.
And say it was going to be an angle. How dumb were they?
Right.
So he came to ECW. Of course, we didn't have contracts. We knew it wasn't going to. You're frozen. There you go. We knew there weren't contracts in ECW, so like we knew it when he came in. Like we were probably a stepping stone. He wanted to get back to WCW or go back to or go to WWE, which ended up being WWE. But really, they had him under contract. He was so talented. They had Steve Austin under contract. He was so talented. The mindset there. Hey, let's get the giant Hogan. Well, two guys that slumber around the ring. Like
put him on top of Cobo Hall.
Yeah. Only now because he's got wrestle again in an hour or so. And he came back and wrestled an hour later.
Yeah,
really
he got thrown off the roof and came back 45 minutes later and dry humped Hogan in the middle of the ring with a guy wrapped in toilet paper.
Yep.
You know, you said that you had big plans for Pillman, and obviously they couldn't play out because he got injured in that terrible accident. Do you remember what some of those plans were, or where you wanted to take Pillman?
We had preliminary discussions with him, like, what do you want? Where do you want to take this? And he wanted to basically just say, anything we do to shove it up Bischoff's ass, which pretty much is what Steve Austin said when he worked there. How can we shove it up like they fucking hated Bischoff? Like crazy hated Bischoff. Like they figured he's pushing these guys and we're two working motherfuckers. And they were two working, as you know. As you ended up seeing was Austin more so because it lasted years later. They were phenomenal workers. They were captivating personalities. WCW didn't have a place for them. Yikes! So I would have liked to have seen what we could have done with him. We didn't have him very long. It was only never like 2, 3 spots, 4 spots. We would have started him off with Shane, and then either align them or have him become Pillman more of an authority figure. But again, it was too short-lived, so we didn't get to do any of the stuff we talked about.
That first moment when those lights came up is iconic with him pointing that cane. Iconic moment in the history of the business.
And I'm going to take and piss in the ring.
And, yeah, that's right. But I'm going to whip Paulie, my Johnson out. I love that.
And Paulie and Joey Styles freaking out. And Paulie and I came running out and screaming at him and shaking. Yeah, everything. We did so much stuff that blurred reality. That's what I loved when I was a kid. I didn't want to know what was real, not real. I wanted to believe.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff, that's what it was. We made people believe because it was real. These guys who went through the audience, I mean, they did every show because they were laying it in. They weren't worried about being out in the crowd and seeing somebody go like, that was bullshit. He even hit him. Oh, no. He hit him, and he hit him with a chair, and he hit him with this, and people in the audience were like, wow. You'll notice if you ever watch any ECW show, and there's like so many shows, like even TV shows, 93, 96, 7, all that area. Every time they went in the audience, you never saw one person lean over and go and tap them on the back. Never. They gave them, they went, give them their room because they'll hit you. Like, like get out, get that. And they gave them that respect. And that was like, that meant it was working. That meant they believed it was real. And that's all I ever wanted was to have that be a real thing. I only wish it had been like every promotion like that. But that's what we did. Yeah, we made it real. Made people believe again.
Anybody who knows me knows I'm a fan of weird wrestling. I like weird storylines. I like out there stuff. So it's not gonna surprise you know that I'm a big Memphis fan. I was always a big Memphis fan. As soon as I discovered it, big fan. So and with that, big Eddie Gilbert fan. Your learning from the book, your relationship with Eddie was kind of 50-50, right? It sounded a little hot and cold. Is there anything, any stories you can tell us about Eddie, maybe good or bad? You know, what was your relationship really like with Eddie?
I would disagree about the hot and cold.
Okay.
I would say that we were hot all the way up to the end, and then we got cold. There was never any cold along the journey. Getting to know Eddie, God, I met him at a show I did. I co-promoted with a guy named Dennis Carluzzo from New Jersey, and he wanted to do. And we had an agreement. He doesn't come to Pennsylvania. I don't go to Jersey. We don't use the same guys, and we can coexist. Because he and Joel Gooder, my predecessor, were at war all the time. So he asked me to do a show with him in a hotel in Marriott, Philadelphia Airport. There's going to be a convention that day, which at that time was like something very unusual, like All Stars convention. And that night was going to be a show. In fact, at that convention, Kevin Sullivan, who had a match that night, ran out of the back door. There was like, where'd Kevin go? Cops are after him. Cops are here. Kevin's gone. Whatever. So that shows that night. I'm just there because he's giving me the courtesy of like half the profits, and he's let me have Sandman on the match and show against his guy, whatever. Which is the night I met Eddie Gilbert. Also the same night that Kerry Von Erich, rest his soul, because the movie's out now. I know you're laughing because you know the story. It's Kerry's last match, by the way, but we asked Kerry to take Kevin's place because Kevin's gone. He's like, phew. And Nancy, God bless her, Nancy Sullivan, woman, was managing him. So we said, how about this? We're going to let you take Kevin's place tonight. So we're going to ask you to go out in the hood with Nancy. And when you get out there, she'll pull the hood off and everyone's like, oh, it wasn't. So not going to piss on the fact it's not Kevin. They'll be excited that it was you. Got it, boss. Walked away. Half an hour goes by. I see him going to go. He goes, yo, what's up? Says, why am I wearing a hood again? I said, oh, yeah. I said, oh, Kevin Sullivan was supposed to be doing the show. He had to leave. You're going to replace him, but it's going to be a surprise. You'll be under the hood. You'll pull the hood off. The place will, got it, boss, got it. Right? This goes on and on. Now we're in a gorilla position. He's ready to go out the ringside. I go, where's your hood? He goes, what hood? I said, I gave you a hood. Remember? He goes, why? I said, you're going out to the ring. I'm not. I don't party like you guys yet. I'm young, like young. You're killing me. Anyway, you got to put the hood on. You go to the ring. Nancy will say, "Here's my surprise." Pull it off, and it's you. Got it. He puts the hood on. I go, finally. He starts marching down the aisle, and he's wearing his jacket that says Kerry across the back, with all the strips hanging off of the arms. Kerry, I'm like, what? Got in the ring. He goes, who's it gonna be? Well, yeah, the whole audience yelling Kerry for 5 minutes. He goes, surprise. So that was that night that I met Gilbert, and that was Kerry. Unfortunately, died like 2 or 3 days later. He's a OD'd, and that was his last performance, and whew, that was a doozy. So I met Eddie Gilbert at that show. And I had just gotten TV. I was trying to figure out how I was going to do TV, knowing the hours it took to put together a show. And believe me, it's not like you just go in there and do it in 2 hours. It's a job to put together a weekly TV show and run my own business. So I meet Eddie and said, Eddie, I understand that you book TV. And it was like a drug dealer. He went, you got TV? I went, yeah, I got TV. All right, back to back. Why don't we talk tomorrow morning? I said, okay. That's just the way Eddie did business, man. So sure enough, we met the next morning. We talked, we hung out. I hired him as my booker, moved him up here from Memphis. And we had a hell of a great time together. Eddie was brilliant. Eddie was funny. Eddie was talented. Eddie knew what to do, when to do, how to do to get himself over, other people over. He tried to basically, he asked me, he said, what are you trying to, what kind of style are you looking for? I said, I'm kind of looking for that Memphis style that you come from. I'm tired of watching people like do bad indie matches. Like, bring some trash cans out with moondogs hitting each other in the head like that. That's what I want. That's my beginning of the hardcore movement for me. And I wanted to see, I didn't know it was called hardcore then, but that's what I was saying. Come out here, let's smash people. Like, let's make it like real. He's like, you got it. And he did. And he wrote some great TV. He was hilarious outside of the ring. He did things in promo, like we'd go through Philadelphia. Now, just me and him and our one camera guy, Matt Radico. He'd walk into a giant dance club, like 809 people, like partying and strobe lights, whatever, with this big spotlight on him from the camera, from the one guy's camera, walking through the club going, hello, ladies. And he's wearing a red crown because he's the king of Philadelphia. He's wearing the red cape. He's wearing his gimmick, wrestling, walking through this entire place going, ladies, it's okay. The king's here. And the people like understand wrestling fans up here barely knew him. Forget the general populace who didn't know anything about wrestling. What is now some people were like, ooh, there's a camera. But the rest of them were like, get away from me, creep. I'm dancing here. Like, seriously, I want to date. Like, and he's going, it's okay. It's okay. I had her last night. Like, he was just so insane and so good at living. I thought, this guy's brilliant. I mean, he was that kind of funny and that kind of smart. I tell a story in the book. There's a place called Jim's, King of Steaks, a cheesesteak place. Philadelphia, there are cheesesteaks. Cheesesteak place. Jim's, King of Steaks. We go there to get food. He turns to back and goes, turn the camera on. And I was like, we're going to have a lunch break here, dinner break. He goes, turn it on. He turns it on. He goes, how you going to call yourself King of Steaks? I'm the King of Philadelphia. Guy says, you're not King of Philadelphia. I'm the King of Steaks. He's like heavy accent. No, I didn't King of Philadelphia. Well, they got in this like brouhaha. I mean, this poor man is working at flipping cheesesteaks, and Eddie Gilbert screaming at him because Matt Radder, he's the king now. I'm the king now. You're on. It's Eddie's King of Steaks. It just what he was just so funny and so clever, and so like bam, bam, bam. Yeah, I loved Eddie Gilbert. He was phenomenal. Great time with him.
His matches too with Terry Funk and Cactus especially really got a lot of buzz for you guys as well. The 3 matches he did with Cactus, right? And
again, that was TWA.
That was before you guys. Okay, yeah, timeline's a little further, but
yeah, you're 100% right. I was there that night. I mean, I was doing the ring announcing, I think, or something that night before I got into my own promotion. But he and Cactus, I saw that. I said, like, this is money. I saw right then and there, this is money. Well, he and Terry Funk thing he brought with him because they were doing some angle in Texas for Terry's something, and they just carried that out. And then Terry did some hellacious promos on the ranch with a horse, picking up the horse's tail, going, Eddie Gilbert, your breath is hard. Like, he was just another one. It was just right out of the chute. I was like, I can sit down and watch this. Like, I don't even care on the paint. Like, it's so good. They were so talented and so good right from the jump. God bless Terry Funk, by the way.
Yeah.
Terry Funk. I'm more grateful for Terry Funk than anyone. 'Cause I honestly can tell you that I think he's the one individual that I would never be. There would never been an ECW without Terry Funk. The way you know ECW, maybe an Eastern Championship wrestler. ECW would never become ECW without Terry Funk. No one knew who the hell I was. I certainly couldn't write a book had I not met Terry Funk. He was so gracious, so giving. He understood so much. He had already had his day, and yet he loved what we're doing. He loved my thought. We talk the thought process. I know what you're trying to do here. I think you got something here. I want to help you. I mean, come on. And without Terry Funk, you'd have never heard of Sabu. People locally might have. You wouldn't have. Certainly not Canada. You'd have never heard of Shane Douglas either, or the Public Enemy. He elevated all of them by working with them, against them. He made them all main events on their own. He did that.
That
He was
triple
that
threat
good.
match, right? Triple threat matches are a weekly occurrence now, but without Terry and Shane and Sabu, we wouldn't be seeing triple threat matches a weekly now, right?
That's the first time it had ever been done. And that was the night that it was a 60-minute match. And it was one of those matches, believe it or not, you can't not, it's like you weren't going to stop watching for a second. Like, it was thing after thing after thing with Sherry Martel and the big cat Curtis, whoever came out, blah, blah, blah. It was, because they weren't running this per se back then. It was just a crazy match. It was insane. Match ended, the draw place standing ovation. Dave Shearer of again PW Insider tells the story. He was a fan staying in the stands, and it's 60 seconds, 45 seconds left of the match. Some guy next to his wife fell out of the bleachers to the ground, and he goes, "Dude, your wife." He goes, "I know, but there's only 45 seconds left." True story. It's a true story. I don't tell any bullshit. I just give you true stories. The guy waited 45 seconds to check on his wife.
That's amazing. I'd love to know, Todd. Like you said, this was the first. And it's, oh, sorry. Did you have a?
Yeah, I was going to say to you, this was. We never named our shows before they happened. We always named them afterwards. Because anything that happened during the show, it was oh, we're going to call this the Night of Taz, or we never knew how the show's going to end up. We left that show. Paul and I went to Marriott, I believe. All the wrestlers were inside, drinking in their cocktails. They had rooms. We got to the parking lot. It's a hotel. There were 200-300 people in the parking lot. And we got out of the car. They started standing up and clapping. And Paul grabbed my arm and goes, "This isn't normal, bruh." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "This doesn't happen." They're going, "ECW, ECW. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Paul." And we're going, "What?" After the show's over, it's at a hotel. We go in through the crowd in the hotel. Same thing. All the fans there, including the wrestlers, they're popping like crazy. We got up to the room that night, and I said, "It's never happened before." And he goes, "Not anywhere I've ever seen." I said, "Wow." He goes, "You know what? I think we crossed the line tonight. This is I think we're now in the next." The night the line was crossed. That's how we came with that title.
Wow, I didn't know. I've never heard that story before.
Because you've only ever heard the unauthorized versions of ECW, the unauthorized versions of the Rise and Fall of the unauthorized. Because here's the authorized version. I was there. That's why you never heard the story before. I can tell the story factually.
I would love to just kind of ask, still staying on the topic of that triple threat match. Like we said here, I don't think it's ever been done before that. As far as I know, it's the first one ever. What was your first impressions when you heard about this, or was this a Paul idea? Is this your idea?
No,
what was your reaction to it?
That was totally a Paul idea. He was so innovative, so creative. He was so had his finger on the pulse of what's going on around us. Like the music he used. I never heard half of that music until he played it. Because what do you think about this for Jason? Oh, I get it. What about this for Beulah? I like that song. There's things that like he was turning me on to all this music that I had never heard. I was still classic rock, and this guy's like, "That's good. Check this out. This grunge stuff." Like here comes the hot stepper from Public Enemy. I'm like, oh, I can see them coming after that. I can see Ted Rocco Rock doing this, and Johnny Grunge going, and Johnny Grunge going, "Yeah, I can't dance, so I just, I can't keep the beat." Johnny Grunge couldn't keep the beat to save his life. Thank God Rocco Rock was there, Ted Petty, to actually keep the rhythm of the beat. And Johnny would try to follow, but yeah, he was way ahead of the curve on all that stuff.
Where we live, there's an extremely popular indie wrestler named the Hot Stepper, and he uses that theme song. But he, before he was a wrestler, was a trained dancer. He can dance. And every time I see him coming to the ring to that song, I'm like, the song suits his character. But fuck, why am I thinking about Rocco Rock right now? Not being able to dance.
No, it was Johnny couldn't dance. Rocco Rock had it. Ted Petty, Rocco Rock, he was also a high flyer. He was, the
Yeah.
kid. He was so talented. He had it. It was Johnny couldn't dance. Johnny was just like, he was the best. Johnny was we used to call him our retarded puppy. We loved Johnny Grunge. We loved him to death. Everybody loved Johnny Grunge. You could not love him because he was just a little bit crazy.
I don't want to take any money off your table, Todd. I'm telling people right now, you want really good Public Enemy stories, go pick up the fucking book. Just do it right now. It's right behind Todd's back. Go pick Todd is God. Go pick it up. I'm not giving it away for free. There are some great Public Enemy stories in this book.
Thank you.
You were Johnny himself, but you were really close to Ted, weren't you? Like it really sounded like you had a very special relationship with Ted.
Actually, with both of them, Teddy and Johnny both. I mean, there's certain to start out the way we did and what our goal was, and watch us slowly but surely, painstakingly, little engine that could shit like that bonded us forever. Like that earliest grouping, whether it's the Pitbulls or the Sandman and Scorpio, and like you said, the Public Enemy and Sabu, that earliest incantation that, like, we're family for life. Yeah. I see Sabu anywhere, like we run towards each other. I see, God, if Teddy and Johnny were still alive, but Gary Wolf, I mean, yeah, we're for life.
Now, one of the hardest parts of my job as someone trying to interview people, and I'm trying to get great stories, I'm trying to talk about your career and your life. One of the hardest parts is I don't want to talk to you about other people, but it's hard sometimes because you're Tod fucking Gordon. How often am I going to talk to Tod Gordon when you have worked? Not only have you worked with these people, you brought a lot of these people into the business and gave them a platform, including the person I want to talk about right now, who I consider, and this is no secret on this show, my listeners are rolling their eyes because they know who I'm talking about, who I consider to be the most underrated and underused performer in the history of professional wrestling, except when it came to ECW, because you're the only promotion that knew how to use this man. I would love some stories about one of my personal favorite wrestlers, Stevie Richards.
Oh, so glad that's where you were going. Yeah, Stevie Richards. So I love Stevie Richards. Stevie Richards started with me. Started with Joe Goodhart. He was like the new guy, and from day one, I said, "This kid's got something." I remember doing a show in front of like nobody, no cameras, nothing, and there was a battle royal. Johnny Hotbody and Tony Stetson totally abused this kid. He weighed about 110 pounds and was like 6 feet tall. I'm exaggerating the weight, but yeah, they kept doing the old put him in a headlock and slap. I mean, they beat the crap out of him. He came back. He didn't say a word about it to anybody. He was a young kid, and what they did was fucked up. And the reason they did it was because they were jealous. They said, "This kid's got something we don't have." And I can see already the way the boss is looking at him like he's got potential. And I didn't like that. I didn't take it on those guys. But I said to myself, this guy. So as we grew and grew, and in fact, when we first started booking, I said, first Eddie and then Paul both said, like, he's so skinny. So I go, trust me. Trust me. I'm not an idiot. I'm a businessman. I'm not going to like, I have no personal stake in this guy. He's got something that you guys don't realize. When he fills out, he's the next Shawn Michaels. They went, I go, yeah. Meanwhile, had he not 18 throat surgeries, he just might have been.
Yeah.
But he was so talented, and he had a knack to do comedy and a knack to do serious mat wrestling. So while we elevated our very first main event, our very first ever pay per view, for God's sakes, I mean that was a huge deal. To be fair, Steve Richards, I'm still in love with him to this day. We're still friends. Back in the early ECW days, he used to work on the second floor of my store as our ticket taker, or it was like a second job from an office job. I'm trying to remember the name he called himself. Oh, killing me. Where's Mike Johnson? Louis. He called himself Louis something. Yeah, but people call him yes,
Van Buren, wasn't it?
Yes,
Lloyd Van Buren.
Yes, for this. Yes. Oh, thank you, Mike Johnson. See, no, I appreciate that. Yes, Lloyd Van frickin' Buren, and he worked up there with Gabe Sapolsky, who was our program guy. Went on to do it much more after ECW was gone. And people call up there, yes, I'm calling about my tickets. This is Lloyd Van Buren. How can I help you? No one ever once said, is this Stevie Richards? No. It was Lloyd fucking Van Buren, and he pulled it off. Stevie. Oh, God, I love Stevie. So, yeah, he worked upstairs for a year or two up there. And we did so many skits. We did skits for TV with him and Blue Meanie in my office, in my store. But, after work, we closed the place up, and we shoot these promos. Where they'd be in there behind my desk and in front of my desk, with their toy soldiers shooting at each other like kids. They were just so funny, and I come in screaming, "Richards!" It's just like we just had a national. I love Steve Richards to this day. He'll tell you a birthday doesn't go by where at least we don't acknowledge each other. He's one of those guys I always have contact with. It's just like that. My kids love him. I mean, Steve's great.
He's a golden he's one of he's like the lost ark for the show. He's one of the guys I want on this show so bad, but he's one of the nicest guys in the world because he's one of those guys who doesn't. He's turned down me 3 times.
Why?
He's busy guy. He's a busy guy. He's got his gym, whatever. But
now I'm going to call him up again. I want to contact him again.
The thing is,
say,
though,
Uncle Todd says he would like you to do this show one time as a favor to him.
Here's what I respect.
He'll do it.
The fact that he responds to me and says, "Hey, man, good luck with the show." I can't do it right now, but blah blah blah. He's so respectful. We don't get that from a lot of guys. I'm going to be honest with you. There's 5% of people we reach out to say either we're going to do it, or we get nothing, or we get the very few people that say,
he was well raised. He's a polite guy.
He's such a nice guy.
And he's polite, and yeah.
I take away those polite no's more than I do some of the yeses. You know what I mean? It's he just seems like such a nice guy, which is why I keep reaching out. Because usually, if somebody says no, thank you, blah blah blah, I never bother them again. But because Stevie was such a nice guy, you have to keep trying. I love Stevie. Stevie's one of my favorite wrestlers in history.
I want you to reach out again and say that Uncle Todd says, you're gonna blow his gimmick here. He's just got stroke enough to get you on the show, and you don't do it.
I gotta try it now.
He'll do it.
You got the Uncle
Tyler,
Todd seal of approval.
Tyler, speaking of Uncle Todd, we're running out of time with Uncle Todd. He's been very generous with our time. We haven't hit some of the harder stuff here, so
next time,
next time, 100%.
Me and Steve will come on together.
There you
go.
go.
We got a couple. I would love that. That's the pitch right there. That's the pitch.
Ding, ding, ding.
Tyler, we got a couple questions left. What do you got left for Todd?
Todd, I'd love to get your opinion on something a little bit more present, actually, and maybe to tie it in with some of your history as well. One of the biggest, you're a businessman, right? And you've been a very successful businessman. And one of the biggest stories of the entire year in professional wrestling was Vince McMahon and the sale of the WWE. Did that surprise you to see Vince part way with his baby finally, or what were your mind frame on that?
I think what surprised me the most is when they went public originally. That shocked me. I thought, well, you're opening yourself up to so much. Now your stockholders can say, hey, what are you doing? Instead of the guy behind his computer screen going, hey, what is he doing? It's a whole nother world. Now he's putting himself in a position where, hey, your behavior is now being scrutinized by people who he would have pissed on a couple of years ago. Oh, you banged that girl and paid her? Well, it didn't matter 5 years ago. It matters now. I'm a stockholder. You're done. It was a crazy move. So the fact that he sold to me was inevitable, especially the market today, where everybody's looking to own something that can bring faces to the TV. My God,
100%.
What was your relationship with Vince like? You guys were doing some business together. He was ECW invaded the WWF to help promote Barely Legal. How was your personal relationship with Vince?
I did not have a personal relationship with Vince. I was probably the first ever real banging heads war I ever had with Paulie. When he said, "I'm doing one of those is after he had bought the company. When I had removed myself, it still stayed on, but now he had a decision-making process, which I had for the 5 years prior to that. I said, "You're nuts. Don't do this." It was right before Barely Legal. I said, "We've spent the last 3 years, 52 weeks a year on TV saying we're the anti-establishment, FWW, FWCW. And now we're going to show up there and you think our fans, the smartest fans in the business, are going to go, wow, are we really attacking WWE? They're going to know it's a work. Why would you give up everything we built up as our cred? That was our street cred. Shane Douglas saying things like, hey, Hulk Hogan, you stick needles in your ass on TV. Who does that? We were the anti-establishment. Don't now become part of it. You're just sucking the air out of everything we built up. Because you have to weigh that against how many eyes will be on us before our first pay-per-view that we never would have had before. Millions of eyes. I said, you know what? They're still not going to know us. They're not going to jump and go, let's find out what this is and try to figure out where the paper is a mistake. We fought and fought and fought. And he did it. At the time, I was not aware of his relationship with Vince. Wasn't part of our conversations on a daily basis. I thought it was a big mistake. And so I didn't have much of a relationship with Vince. And I resented the fact that we went out there and did all that cross promotion. I thought it was totally a disservice to our product and our fans.
Did you feel the backlash from the fans after that as well? Were you onto something there?
No, because most of the people at that point knew. It wasn't long after that I left, for one thing. All was building up from there. It was not what I wanted. It was my vision. So the last show, he goes, hey, we're here. We hope we can carry on your vision. We already hadn't carried on my vision. So, I didn't get much back. But I didn't get any backlash from it.
You mentioned Barely Legal, and Can you just kind of talk about that entire night and the process of Barely Legal? Because I think that that's one of the most important pay-per-views, especially in that time period. This was ECW's coming out party to, a larger audience. How special was that night for you? What are your memories from the night?
I felt we weren't ready. I felt we were jumping 5 steps ahead instead of climbing 5 steps one at a time. I mean, you don't just all of a sudden go from nowhere, from being, we're selling a lot of VHS tapes to let's spend a couple $100,000 on a pay-per-view. Understanding, by the way, that when you go on pay-per-view, the first thing they want to know is when's your next pay-per-view? And you put the money for that pay-per-view, and they say, if you want another one, you got to put the money for that one now. But we're not going to pay you for yours until 3 or 4 weeks from now. So you got to come up with the money for the second pay-per-view a month at least before you pay for the first pay-per-view. Not even knowing how you did. That's a lot of money outlaid. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, hey, don't take the date and we'll just give that to somebody else. Like, you can't lose that. Once you start, it's like you don't want to go backwards and fall back, tell the boys, we couldn't afford the second pay-per-view, so somebody else took that spot. You got it. You had no choice. You're stuck now. You got to keep rolling. You got to keep growing. And it wasn't time yet. I'm a businessman. I knew it wasn't time yet. And even though it took a couple of years after that, before all the money was gone, his family had invested, it didn't have to be that way. It should have grown exponentially. It should not try to go like, "Ooh, we're on pay-per-view," just to say we're on pay-per-view. Like, okay, we'll get there. We don't have to get there today. We don't have to be, the new WWF today. Like, seriously, it was two different mindsets, and they weren't the same mindset.
One of the biggest things I learned from your book, Todd, because this blew my mind. Because I don't watch a whole lot of shoot interviews. I don't know if this was knowledge before your book came out. So I learned this in your book, but was the real story, the Tod Gordon story of the mole thing. Up until 3 days ago, I believed that Tod Gordon, as well as a couple other people, could have been in the whole mole situation, because that's what we were fed from Paul Heyman, from WWE, from everything through all these years. Learning through your book is that, that was a work. That was something that you and Paul came up with together to save face and shit like that for Paul when he was taking over the company. My question to you is, what do they have to benefit Paul, WWE, anybody? What do they have to benefit to keep kayfabe for 15 more years after that? The rise of ECW comes out, the DVD, and they basically bury you in that, calling you the mole. They continue that 10 years later with the My Name is Paul Heyman DVD. What do they have to benefit from continuing to push kayfabe and say that you were the mole if that wasn't the case?
Well, number one is they had nothing to benefit from. The only person who had to benefit was Paul, because apparently, again, he had to galvanize the locker room. The locker room was gone, split into a million pieces. You had the New York crew, you had the Philly crew, the Paul crew, all these factions that never existed before. We're family, man. We're putting all of us together, one goal. All of a sudden, splinter. The only person that something gave him was him, because he obviously had not smartened up his crew, the Dreamers, the Tazs, the Bubbas, the New York guys, and the Philadelphia guys, my friends, from Sabu to back at the time, Public Enemy, to Sammy and Scorpio Fonzie. I mean, they all knew the truth that was going on. I said, guys, you want to work, got to go with the flow. I'm done. Like, I can't do these lies anymore. When I saw that DVD, I was like, what? I said, 25 years later, you haven't smartened anybody up yet? Remember on Francine's podcast, she said to me, wait a minute, it was a work? I said, of course it was a work. Did you ever hear one of us say a bad word about the other one after I left? If I was this bad guy, wouldn't he have, you know, used that opportunity? He never mentioned my name once. Why? Because he couldn't. We're gonna have a war. Eric Bischoff did an interview recently. It's on YouTube where he said Tod Gordon mole stories. That's funny. I never met Tod Gordon. He didn't work for me. So I don't know what if there's a mole. He's gonna report to me. My guy's gonna report to me. That never happened. I said, yeah, I know it never happened because it wasn't real. But he didn't smarten up the locker room. And because of that, that was the last time we spoke. We still spoke all the time up until that DVD came out. And I'm on that DVD, putting them over a little, like they brought me down for the Paul Heyman DVD. But when it came out, I saw that. I was like, wow. And that was the hook for Sean. He said, I need you to get your story out there. I said, fuck it. It's been 20. I've sucked it up all this time. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It does matter. You need to have your legacy squared. You need to tell people what happened.
That's my follow-up question. Why did it take you 25 years to,
because I thought,
quote unquote, clear your name?
Well, number one, I didn't realize I had to until like that DVD came out.
Right.
I assumed that it's already cleared. Number two, I mean, no one had ever come up to me at a convention and said, like, why'd you do it? Like, never. No one's ever come up to me and approached me about it, like, ever. But he got me saying, like, you know what? You're getting old. You're going to die, and no one's going to ever know that really, this is what really happened. Grab your legacy. I said, I don't need it. He goes, grab your legacy. That's what he kept saying to me. I said, and finally I said, all right, here's a tell-all. Tell them the truth about everything that happened. No, if no one comes after me for libel or slander, it's got to be pretty much a true story. So, yeah, there it is, and let it lay. And I didn't need to do it, but it seemed like the right thing to do. Just finally leave it there and let it be.
Yeah, I'm really glad that happened, because I think that your legacy in the history of professional wrestling is an important one.
Yes.
You look at a lot of big angles that happen, and I'll use like the invasion angle. Let's say the NWO, right? 20 years later, when Nexus came out and invaded the WWE, people weren't chanting WCW, WCW. But anytime a crazy moment happens in the history of professional wrestling, and anytime there's a nostalgia and reunion, we still hear to this day ECW chants. Hell, the WWE is coming to Philadelphia this year, and there's already a huge push to get guys like the Blue Meanie into the Hall of Fame. Are we going to see an ECW reunion show in Philadelphia? Does that give you a sense of pride to still know the love that ECW has and that the people have?
Right, a sense of humbling. But before I forget, the NWO, let me throw this out to Paul too. When we fought about the Sandman character, and I said, I want him out of that damn surfer outfit. Get rid of that surfboard. I want him to be a different character. Tell me. I went through the whole story. He's a barroom brawler. That's who he is. He's a guy who comes home after work 8 hours on the roof or on the ground, and he's dirty, and he drinks the beer and gets into the fight. That's who he is. Let him go to the ring and be that guy. He goes, all right, fine. I go, but let him do the whole thing. Let's have him go out there with a beer and a cigarette. He goes, you can't have a guy go to the ring with a cigarette. I said, why not? It's just my show. I want him to go out to the ring with a beer and a cigarette. He did. It got over like boom. But Paulie and his brilliance that next week took that and put Sandman on TV in black and white. Everybody else was in color. Everything Sandman did, his matches, his promos, the smoke coming out, the black and white. Wow, I was watching it. What's different about this guy? Why is everybody attention to him? Because he's black and white and nobody else is. And the NWO did the same thing 20 or whatever number of years later. They got that from Paulie.
I mean, the whole Attitude Era came from ECW. Let's be
real. I'm just saying that whole black and white NWO thing, we did it first too. We did a lot of things first.
What's the famous saying you always hear? Steve Austin had his first sip of beer in ECW, right? The Attitude Era was born in ECW. Fans still chant ECW to this day. I've never seen a WCW reunion show. You know, I've seen many ECW reunion shows. Like, but that's got to make you proud, right?
I'm humbled by the fact that it's still young. The fact that Vince McMahon spent all that money on TV, and TV costs money. Trust me, to start a new ECW, because he couldn't stand the fact that all of his shows, people would still yell ECW. His idea was, I got to squash this, to the point where he made himself the champion just to make the ECW fans hate ECW. It went out of business, and what happened? They're still chanting ECW. That's mind-boggling to me. It's overwhelming to me. So yeah, if that's not a legacy, I don't know. But yeah, I'm humbled by that. Legitimately and seriously humbled by that. And I'm so thankful for it. I love the people who are ECW heads. I think we can get new ones. It's awesome. Like you guys, it's great.
What was your impressions of both the reunion shows that happened? You know, the One Night Stand and Shane Douglas's shows as well. How did those feel for you?
The One Night Stand they did only would have worked if they hadn't used their own talent. You're not going to put John Cena into an ECW One Night Stand reunion show, and Layfield and Bischoff, like Angle, like, come on, man. If you want to make it real, because the DVD got over, then follow suit. Make the show like the DVD. Use the ECW guys. Don't say, but also here's our guys. Like the Shane Doug's reunion shows, they just, there's no shot there. It's like, first of all, we had lightning in a bottle. If it could have been recaptured, we'd have recaptured it. But if somebody down the road is not going to recapture what we had, it was just magic. We were the Howard Stern of wrestling, the time that Howard Stern was the biggest he was. And it worked, but it couldn't have worked any other time. And it couldn't have worked with any other people putting it together and running it. Shane and his friends from Pittsburgh or wherever, they were, and I love Shane. So please skip. I'll go on for an hour and tell you how great Shane is, but those shows had no chance of becoming a new company. So the reunion shows are like bittersweet. It's not really reunion shows. It's just people that appeared on ECW. And now we're all too old to do shit in the ring. So,
my favorite part about those reunion shows, it didn't even happen on the reunion show. It happened on one of the documentaries, and it was Terry Funk giving that speech about how he couldn't do both shows and how he chose Shane's show because that was what he felt was more true. And I just thought it was a beautiful speech, and I think that summed up.
It was Francine's show, actually, wasn't it?
It was like the Forever
Francine show, yeah.
Francine and Shane, and that was they recreated the triple threat in the main event. I think the barbed wire, and
but yeah, that was Terry Funk.
Such a beautiful promo he got.
Without him, like I said, the fact that he wrote the forward to my book. Come on, I could die, go to heaven right there. Terry Funk, the guy I looked up to an island. He's gonna write a forward to my book. He doesn't write forwards to anybody's books. You just show me that kind of love when I worship this man. I'm on cloud nine.
Mike, you got one more you want to ask before we start wrapping up?
Yeah, before we start wrapping up, and I know what your last question is going to be because it's always the same, and I'm looking forward to this one, to be perfectly honest, more than any. But before you get to that, my question, because we discussed legacy, and ECW 30 years later still 100% has a legacy. My question to you, where ECW has spawned some things. From there, that extreme style has kind of grown and gone other places, not only in the hardcore style, but the type of storytelling and stuff like that. Right now, GCW is growing as a brand. Do you ever look at GCW and do you feel a sense of pride in, hey, look, I had a hand in inspiring that? Or do you not enjoy it, thinking they're just a ripoff?
You're killing me now, right? We're like doing great, and I gotta tell you, I've never seen or heard of GCW,
and that's fine. That's fine. You know why? Because GCW, I love GCW, but if you're not,
I can tell you what. Now you said that, you don't go damn look it up after we're done.
And that's great. And GCW is game changer wrestling. It's easy to find.
Nick Gage, right?
Where are they out of?
Mostly New Jersey.
GCW's out of New Jersey?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're with Nick Gage and Brett Lauderdale is the promoter.
Brett Lauderdale, he's a former ref at his CZW, started this company called GCW. And they're very ECW inspired. They're growing. They're huge. They're traveling. They came to Toronto just this year. They're doing huge thing. Your boy Scorpio has done a lot of work for them. But kind of my point, the fact that Tod Gordon hasn't heard of GCW is a problem, because they're as indie as indies can be. They're still very indie. The only place to find them is if you pay $9.99 every month on Fight TV. Now, is that a problem if you're a growing company? Do you need a national television deal to be a company in 2023?
Let me tell you something. We were pre-internet.
Yeah.
If we had the internet, and I could have sold our arena shows for $2,
yeah,
$1.99, whatever, across the country, we'd have been solvent forever. People, are you kidding me? There was an internet and people could have watched our arena shows. After the first one, like everybody else, never left. They came back from Boston, North Carolina, like showed up every freaking month for those shows. They'd have bought them too all over and in Japan and wherever else. It would have been a fortune. Instead, we're selling VHS tapes. We're just too premature, just right before the infancy of the internet.
I said the same thing. In 1995, I was a backyard wrestler, and it was my passion. I loved it. It was what I did. 99% of my life was backyard wrestling. We didn't have fucking YouTube. Can you imagine what I could have done if we had YouTube in 1995? So I get your point.
You're freezing on me. Sorry.
I apologize.
That's why I love doing this show, because we've been very fortunate to talk to many people like yourself and other people that we've admired and respected for so long. And now there is the internet, and these stories can get out, and these journeys can be told, and that's why I take pride in our show, because like Mike said to you off air, we're not a show that's looking for dirt and stories and headlines. If we get a headline, that's fantastic. But for us to sit here for an hour and a half with Tod Gordon and just have you talk and tell your stories and have that out there for the world to hear, I take a sense of pride in that, and it's been amazing to talk to you about that.
Hey, you guys are awesome what you do. We'll do it again.
100%. My goal for 2024 is a 4-man team. Me, Tyler, Tod Gordon, Stevie Richards. We're going to do it. It's going to get done. I promise.
There's the pressure. Okay.
That's it. So we always end all of our
Raven
shows.
and Stevie Richards?
Uncle Todd says Stevie's got to come.
There you go.
So I always
like that last question.
Yeah, I always like to end our shows with I ask the same question, but I'm going to put a little twist on this one, okay? So I always like to ask, everything that you've done in your career, in wrestling, what are some personal moments for you that you look back on and they just make you happy, whether it was in the ring, out of the ring, backstage, whatever. But I'm going to put a little twist on this one too, and I'm going to give you a two-parter. So what is a moment that personally makes you happy? And what is the craziest thing that you've ever seen happen in an ECW ring?
Oh, shit.
We got to get a little extreme with Tod Gordon.
I mean, what makes me happy is the fact that in the last 7 days, for the 200th time this year, I spoke to Sam, and I spoke to Scorpio, and I spoke to Bill Alfonso. Bill Alfonso, I just sold him his engagement rings. He's getting married next month.
Amazing.
God bless him. These guys that forever and ever were, we did this thing in South Carolina. It was us, the three of Tommy Rich sat in for Scorpio. It was Tommy Rich, me, Sam, and Fonzie. It was like, we were like longing for that. Like, oh my, it was like, it meant so much to all of us to be together again, to share that love. And it never changes. The whole time, here's Sam and Tommy Rich. What was it like when you were like 17 and you're walking in an arena and like there's like picking each other's brains? We all wanted to know so much. It's the way we all grew way back then by asking and telling, and nobody feeling like a dick, and just like to have that same relationship today. And with Sabu, I would include him in that group. Gary Wolf's still there in that group. I mean, Meany, he's almost in the group, but we're just saying it's like that means the world to me that these friendships have lasted this long and have never been like intermittent. They've been ongoing, like nonstop. That means the world to me. The craziest thing I ever saw in a ring. It's got to be one of two things. One, when Shane Douglas shook Gary Wolf's halo.
Oh, yeah.
And I got Gary to do that because his hospital was right across the street from my office, my store. And he came and he goes, finally, it's off, dude. The fucking halo's off. I went, how would you feel about wearing it for another month or two? And he goes, it's a fucking rib. I go, no, you don't have to wear it home. And you have to screw it all the way in, just like when you go out of the house. He goes, I'm like, no, seriously, I'm thinking main event shit here. You and Shane. He goes, go on. And of course, he did. And he sold it and he brought it out to the arena and he's already had it off. We're so naive. We go, all right, we get two students from our school, put them in the front row. When this happens, start to come over the guardrail. Well, when it happened, they didn't have to. The whole audience came over the guardrail before these guys even got in their chairs. I went, uh-oh. And Shane's going, Doctor, get me the fuck out of here. Like, whoa. I go, now I'm punching and Shane going, how am I going to get him the fuck out of here? But these people are like, that scared me. Like, I thought he was dead and I could trample over like they were nuts. And when you can make that smart crowd that angry or that happy or anything, like if you can get them, and that's a successful fucking angle, man. That's like, that's what you live for. But it scared the crap out of me when they all started coming at us. The other one would have to be the exit chair throwing incident, which I was not a happy camper about.
Oh, yeah.
And Terry Funk going, throw a chair. And then one, then two, and I'm like, oh my God, someone in the front row's going to get clipped from someone in the back. And there goes my license. There goes my insurance. I'm a dead man. How we survived that, God only knows. But those were the two moments that came to my mind right now first.
What's that conversation like when Terry Funk and Public Enemy and Foley come back in the curtain with you, Todd?
Well, Public Enemy was buried. They were like underneath all those chairs. They didn't call for it. I had to walk back and I go like, and Terry's, I know. So what am I going to say? Oh, okay. As long as you know, then I guess we're good. I'm just learning how to cross myself and shit. Like, holy shit! Like what? I know. It got out of hand. I know. Just a little bit.
Oh, that's amazing, Todd. This was a complete pleasure, and I really would love to do a part 2 because I know that this was a fun time because I didn't even look at the questions I wrote down. And I have a million more. I have a million more that I want to ask you, and I would love to invite you back onto this show at a future date.
How about tomorrow?
Oh,
no, I'm kidding.
Listen,
we will do it.
We can start doing the Tod Gordon podcast on Count It Out here, man.
I almost got in so much heat with my wife because I was ready to say yes.
yeah, I will take the wife heat as well. Absolutely. This was a pleasure. Thank you so much,
guys.
Sir.
I appreciate you
Mike,
both did a great job. Thank you both.
Thank you, sir. And on behalf of let me see here, approximately 34 questions I haven't asked tonight that are going to have to wait for part 2 and maybe even part 3 of this show. This is crazy. We can't thank Tod Gordon enough. Go out, buy the goddamn book. Tod is God by Tod Gordon and Sean Oliver. I'm not even joking. Buy it, get it on Audible like I did because that still goes. That's still money to you, right?
You got frozen. I missed it.
Tyler,
fix
our internet connection, you asshole.
I always get the heat for that
because you're the one recording. Buy Tod is God by Tod Gordon and Sean Oliver. If you haven't bought it yet, buy it anywhere you can buy your books. Buy it on Audible, get it somewhere. Kindle, probably get it somewhere, buy it, read it. It's in my top 5, top 7, that's our gimmick, books of all time. Going off from that, thank you, Tod Gordon. We have been counted out. Take care.